In my last video, I shared some modeling tips to get the stylized chubby prop look, but the look cannot be fully achieved without lighting and shading, and that's what I'll be covering today. Hello everyone, how are you? Today we're gonna dive in the world of materials, so you can go from this to this. Make sure you stick until the end because I'll be using a shader node you probably don't use very often but should, and you better don't sleep on my last tip. Okay, let's begin. Firstly, to get the best look possible, I'm sorry to inform you, but we need to switch to cycles. For this scene's world, I only used one of the default HDRIs, and with this node setup, you can use an HDRI just for lighting without the image appearing as the background. To choose my HDRI, I disabled the lights and world, and I tried different HDRIs out. I normally would do this in render mode, but if I switch to render mode while recording the screen, the video starts lagging. Once you've chosen one, keep the cursor on your chosen image to see the name of the file we need to select as our image texture. To find the default HDRIs, go to this folder, but remember to change your Blender version, and here we have the same HDRIs. I originally chose this one, but let's pick a different one. Let's enable everything. And if when testing the different HDRIs you changed the rotation or the strength and you want to recreate the same settings, you can by changing the values in the nodes. If you wanted, you could add light objects too. My recommendation is add soft lights. I have a video about lighting, link in the description and at the end of the video. Okay, now let's dive into the shading, and my tip number one is keep it simple. If you have a look at these scenes, you'll notice these materials are so simple. So make the principled BSDF your best friend, especially the specular and roughness inputs. I created the materials for the bow and the shard using the principled BSDF only. You can also add some details in other colors, such as in the stripes and in the colored node. Just add a new material slot, choose the same material you already used for the model so both materials have the same values, but make it a single user copy. Change the color, and in edit mode, select the face loops and click Assign. You can play with the metallic inputs as well, which is what I did for the wires material. You could also add a gradient texture node to the principled BSDF and the good old texture coordinate and mapping node to control the position of the gradient. I'll talk about a different kind of gradient later in the video that looks really good and adds a gradient along the edges, so stay tuned. Simple patterns and shapes are your allies as well, especially for making wood or marble materials. These materials look a bit more complex than the ones we've seen until now, but still look pretty simple, so they won't stand out in your scene. Now, sometimes we do need to make more complex materials. For example, here I didn't want to use an image texture, so I learned to make this plate pattern procedurally. To understand what each node does, you can watch this video, specifically the plate chapter. Adding some hair particles to make it look like actual fabric or fur will add another layer of cuteness to your model. And last but not least, the start of the show, warm edges. Using the geometry shader node, more precisely the pointiness output, we can take these plain materials to this. The pointiness output is only available in cycles, but there are some tutorials on YouTube on how to achieve this effect in Eevee using other nodes. I also used this node for the donut, even though I could have used a gradient texture node instead as well. You might have to fight a bit to find those edges by moving the color stops. And if the node is not working correctly, you could try applying the scale and the modifiers. Once you found those edges, add a second color ramp for the colors, and to get different looks, you can play with the interpolation method in any of the two color ramps. Okay, we're reaching the finish line, and here's my last tip, and this is something I think people don't spend enough time thinking about, and that is color. You could search for different palettes and color scheme ideas, but my specific advice is use fewer colors because chances are you are probably using too many. Otherwise, there will be too much information in your scene, so start studying colors in the artworks you like, in the films you watch, or in images you find pleasing to look at. I could go on and on about color and cohesive color choices, but that, my friends, is a subject for another video. If you are interested in a video about color and how to come up with color combinations that work well together, let me know in the comments. And if you made it this far, thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye!